You don't know what it means to be family. Those words came from my Aunt Sharon with so much conviction that for a moment, I wondered if she truly believed them. She stood with her arms crossed, her eyes hard, speaking in front of a room full of people who applauded everything she said. As if she were a martyr. As if she were the one who had survived abandonment. As if she were the one who had been left alone. But I was there. Alive. Whole on the outside, shattered on the inside. My name is Madison, and this is the story of how I was erased from my own life. Until the day the light turned on me. But before that, I had to endure years of silence, humiliation, and a kind of abandonment that leaves no visible scar, but marks you forever. My parents died when I was 7 years old. A car accident. It was quick, they said. Painless. As if that could comfort someone who lost everything in one night. After that, I was sent to the home of the only available relative, my Aunt Sharon. Before we continue with the story, I ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. This is very important to us. Thank you so much. She never wanted children. She said so with pride. Having a child ties you down, limits you, drains you. But when they left me at her door with a suitcase in my hands and eyes still wet from the funeral, she took a deep breath and smiled. Of course, I'm the only family she has now. But on the inside it was completely different. You're here by chance, Madison, she would say. I could have refused. Don't think this is a hotel. And I didn't think. I cleaned the house, helped in the garden, prepared my own food. I was 9 years old and already knew what it was like to be afraid of making too much noise. At school everyone thought I was lucky. Your aunt is amazing. She talks about you all the time. It was true. Sharon loved to tell stories about me, only they weren't true stories. She would recount how I was problematic, ungrateful, how she had rescued a traumatized child and taught me everything I knew. She said that without her, I would have become just another statistic. If it hadn't been for me, she'd still be in the system today. Every time I heard that, my stomach would twist. But I smiled. I always smiled. Because I learned early on that showing hurt was dangerous. That people like Sharon thrived on it. So I spent nights studying, got the best grades, locked myself in my room and cried alone. And even then she would say, those grades exist only because I disciplined you. When I turned 15, I earned a partial scholarship to a preparatory school. I was ecstatic. Until Sharon found out that my name would appear in the local newspaper as the featured story of the week. This is a reflection of my effort, she said. You should thank me publicly. Make it clear that you got there because of me. But I was the one studying, Aunt. She stepped forward. The kind of step that needed no words. And I backed away. The next day when the article came out, the quotation she had demanded was there. I thank everything to my aunt who taught me values and discipline. It was never a lie. But it was never the truth either. Over the years she began calling herself my real mother. She said it to neighbors, teachers, coworkers. Me. I listened. Quietly. Always silently. In my final year of high school, I was chosen to give the graduation speech. Sharon organized a party well in advance. She decorated the house, hired a photographer, and chose the outfit that we would wear. When she heard me practicing my speech in my room, she entered without knocking and said, "Oh, and don't forget to mention me, okay? Phil, I was more of a mother than you ever deserved." That phrase. More of a mother than I deserved. What did she mean by that? That I wasn't even worthy of the basics? That just being alive was too much? I smiled as always. But something inside me broke in that moment. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. For the first time I realized that I no longer had to be a hostage to that narrative. That what I had to say mattered more than what she wanted to hear. That night while she slept, I rewrote my entire speech. I tore up the old version, the one filled with commissioned praise, and made a new one. A true one. And I promised myself that for the first time I would speak for myself. But I still did not know the impact this would have. Nor that when I stepped onto that stage, she would not be able to hide her embarrassment. On the morning of graduation, I woke up before sunrise. Not because I was excited, but because my stomach had been churning for days. The rewritten speech was folded in my bag, wedged between old books and a lipstick I barely used. I read each line more than 20 times, seeking courage. Every word there was mine. There was no longer a manipulated version, the tailor-made one to stroke Sharon's ego. And that terrified me. Downstairs, the sound from the kitchen revealed that she was already awake, probably organizing everything for what she called our big day. Because for her, everything was about us. Never about me. If I achieved something, it was because of her. If I suffered, it was because I didn't listen to her. "Let's go, Madison," she shouted from the stairs. "Your hair is booked for the salon at 8. And you need to look like a well-bred young lady, understand?" I took a deep breath and went down. The dress she had chosen for me was hanging on the door. It was beautiful, but it wasn't mine. None of it was. In the car, while she drove, she talked about the guests, the compliments she had already received in advance, and even mentioned that perhaps in the future, people would start seeing me as a true extension of her. An extension of her. That kept echoing in my head throughout the ride. As if I were an accessory. A trophy. A reminder of how generous she was. At the venue, the attendants fawned over her. "You must be so proud. Raising a teenager on your own and still watching her graduate with honor. Wow." She smiled, modest on the outside, inflated on the inside. It was hard. But I did what needed to be done. She got far because I was firm. I was there. Sitting. In silence. Listening to praise for something I had built with every sleepless night, every tear hidden in my pillow. But it was as if my voice had never existed. During the ceremony, the gym was packed. Lights, cameras, emotional parents. And Sharon, seated in the front row with that fixed smile of someone who already knew that all eyes would be on her. I don't blame her for being so sure. For so long I kept silent. I erased myself. I became the reflection she molded. A well-behaved doll. An obedient girl. But I was no longer that girl. The coordinator came on stage, adjusted the microphone, and announced. "And now let's welcome the class speaker. A student who stood out for resilience, intelligence, and unwavering determination. Please welcome Madison." The applause was immediate. I walked onto the stage with cold hands and a racing heart. The folded paper was clutched between my fingers. I felt her eyes fixed on me. Pride? Perhaps. Control? Certainly. But she did not know what I was going to say. When I began speaking, my voice trembled. But it was true. "Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here today. For a long time I was taught that gratitude comes above all. That we must recognize those who stood by us, even when we did not ask them to." Some chuckled lightly. She smiled, thinking that this was the beginning of a tribute. But I continued. "Today, I do not want to talk about achievements, grades, or medals. I want to talk about silence. About what it means to grow up being grateful to someone who reminds you of that every day. About what it means to win while being afraid. To smile with guilt." Her smile withered. And the room, which had been relaxed until then, fell into absolute silence. I grew up hearing that I was here by chance. That my place was a gift. That without certain people I would be nobody. But today I understand that what got me here was my will to break this cycle. It was the desire to exist on my own. To not be anyone's mirror. Someone in the audience uttered a wow. But Sharon shifted in her seat. Uncomfortable. "I sincerely thank everyone who helped me. Even those who helped me understand that love isn't proven through control but through presence. That being a family member isn't about boasting about putting up with someone, but about embracing without demands." And then I looked directly at her. "Today I speak with my own voice. And today this stage is mine." I closed the paper and walked off. I didn't wait for the applause to end. I didn't seek her face in the crowd. For the first time, I didn't need Sharon's approval, or anyone else's. But at that moment, unknowingly, I had ignited the spark of what would come next. And she would begin to crumble. The sound of applause still echoed when I stepped off the stage. But it wasn't for Sharon. For the first time, the gazes were not searching for the woman who always placed herself at the center of everything. They were on me. And she felt it. At the exit, as students and family members embraced, I was surrounded by classmates, teachers, even parents of other students. Everyone said the same thing. "Your speech was courageous. You spoke for so many who couldn't. You made me cry." I smiled shyly, still trying to process what I had done. The courage came like a whirlwind, intense but brief. Now that I was on solid ground, reality hit me like a cold wave. Sharon found me a few minutes later outside the school, where the photographer she had hired tried to capture moments that no longer belonged to her narrative. She was walking with hard, quick steps, her eyes flashing. "Is this what you prepared behind my back?" she snapped, teeth clenched. "You embarrassed me. In front of everyone. I took a deep breath. For the first time I felt no fear. I didn't embarrass you. I only spoke the truth. My truth. She laughed. A dry, venomous laugh. You wouldn't be alive if it weren't for me. You wouldn't have a roof to fall under. I gave you everything. No. You gave me a roof. The rest I built on my own. She froze for a second, as if she'd never heard anyone say that directly. And perhaps she never had. You should have thanked me, she continued, her voice now trembling. I sacrificed. I gave up my life. No. You used me. You used my story to build an image. To present yourself as a saint, as a heroine. But you didn't create me. You controlled me. There was a strange silence between us. A void that seemed to swallow everything around. The photographer, bewildered, began packing up the equipment. Nearby people discreetly stepped back. Her stage was collapsing. Are you rejecting me? She said, as if playing the victim. After everything? I am freeing myself. Before she could respond, my name was called over the school's PA system. They were gathering the graduates for the official photos. I looked at her one last time and said, today what you always wanted to control has become independent. And you don't know how to deal with that. She said nothing. She just stood there, trembling hands and eyes fixed on me, as if she were watching a castle crumble. In the following days, the impact of my speech grew beyond what I expected. A teacher posted an excerpt on social media, and within hours the video was shared by students, alumni, and even people outside the school. Many commented as if they recognized what I had said, as if they had experienced something similar. But what surprised me most was when I began receiving private messages. My aunt did the same to me. I thought I was overreacting, until I heard your words. You made me understand that I wasn't ungrateful. I just wanted to live in peace. There were hundreds of messages. Each one a brick removed from the wall Sharon had built around me. And with each one I felt lighter. But Sharon, she reacted as if losing control of a puppet. On the fourth day after graduation, she appeared at the door of the house where I lived, the rented apartment I had secured with my internship and university scholarship. She was holding a folder and had a look of fury disguised as concern. You're acting ungrateful, Madison, she said, already entering without being invited. So I brought a list of everything I spent on you over the past 11 years. I opened the folder. It had printed bills, dates, amounts, even a sheet of notebook paper with calculations for electricity and food. You're charging me for having raised you? She didn't blink. You think independence is spitting on the plate you ate from? Well then, prove you're so grown up. Pay it all. And I'll disappear from your life. I closed the folder calmly. You can leave this here. I'll keep it. As a reminder of how much it costs to maintain a farce. She did not expect that response. She tried to say something but stopped midway. For the first time, the one who seemed fragile was her. And one more thing, I said. Don't show up at my enrollment ceremony. Not at the scholarship award. Not at any other achievement. You will no longer reap the fruits of something you didn't plant. She looked at me with a mix of anger, shame, and emptiness. And she left. Without saying goodbye. Without slamming the door. Silent as a ghost who finally realized there was no more room in the house she haunted. The following week, I received an official invitation from the university to record an inspirational video about student resilience. They had watched my speech. They chose me to represent the new generation of scholarship students for the national program. During the recording, they said I could bring someone from my family. But I went alone. And for the first time, that did not mean loneliness. It meant freedom. The ceremony at the university took place 3 months later. It was summer. The main auditorium was bathed in natural light, and the title of the ceremony was emblazoned in golden letters at the back of the stage. Academic Excellence and Resilience Program, National Edition. Around me were young people from all over the country. Survivors like me. With different stories, different pains, but with one thing in common. We had all been discarded, ignored, underestimated. And there we were, living proof that silent resistance is indeed a form of victory. My name was printed on the program, right after the opening by the dean. Honorary speech, Madison. I stared at that sheet for a long time before the ceremony began. Not because I doubted myself, but because I knew what that moment meant. It wasn't just a personal achievement. It was the end of a cycle. I hadn't invited Sharon. And yet she appeared. Alone. Without makeup, without a rehearsed smile, without photographers following her. She sat at the back, almost invisible, as if she were just fulfilling an obligatory ritual. But her eyes, they searched for me the whole time. She wanted to know if she still belonged to my story. And, at that moment, she realized she did not. The dean spoke, other young people were called up, and then came my moment. I walked onto the stage with firm steps. My dress was simple, but my gaze was different. A look that no longer sought approval. That did not crave applause from anyone, just space to exist. I took a deep breath and began. Good evening. My name is Madison, and for many years I was told that I should be grateful just to exist. Some faces turned more attentively. Sharon straightened herself in her seat. They told me that love came with conditions. That being welcomed meant remaining silent. That if someone gives you shelter, they have the right to define who you are, what you feel, how you think, and even what you should be grateful for. I paused, not for effect but because I had to hold back the lump in my throat. Today I am here because I chose to break this cycle. Because I realized that respect is not a debt. That silence is not a virtue. And that love is not something to be demanded. The audience fell silent. A reverent silence. For a long time I was just someone's shadow. A name omitted, a distorted story, a silenced voice. But today, here at this university with this microphone, I am the author of my own journey. I looked toward the back of the auditorium, directly at where she sat. And I finished. And if there's one thing I've learned, no applause is worth your peace. Applause. A lot. But I stepped down from the stage with a different kind of calm. It wasn't euphoria. It was closure. As if I had finally placed a stone upon it all. Outside, the university team wanted to record quick interviews with the speakers. While they prepared me, Sharon approached. There was no longer fury in her eyes. Only embarrassment. And a void bordering on regret, but without the courage to voice it. I saw everything, she said softly. You were, well. That was the word she chose. Well. As if she still needed to measure how much I deserved to shine. Thank you for coming, I replied with respectful coolness. But now I am stepping into another phase. And I'm going to leave the past exactly where it belongs. She nodded as if she knew there was no more room for her there. For the first time she did not try to insist. She did not try to manipulate. She simply took a step back and walked away. And in that quiet withdrawal she shrank. Months later I was invited to an international conference in another country. I was selected among hundreds of students to represent the new generation of social leaders in inclusive education. It was a tremendous opportunity, and I accepted without hesitation. Before I left, I packed everything that remained of that old house. Some clothes, books, and a blue folder with old papers. The folder that Sharon had given me with the debts. I threw it all away. Every bill. Every receipt. Every phrase written as emotional blackmail. None of that was part of me anymore. It was no longer what defined me. Instead, I took with me a letter I had written to myself on a lonely night at 13. The letter said, "One day you will leave here. You will leave not out of hatred but out of love. For the version of yourself that does not yet exist, but is waiting to be born. And when that day comes you will know, the world is much bigger than the roof they made you believe was enough." I cried as I read it again. Not out of sadness, but because I knew that little girl was right. She only needed time. And courage. Today my story is used as an example in institutional support projects. I am invited to events, podcasts, and panels on overcoming adversity. And I am always asked, "Have you reconciled with her?" And I answer calmly, "I have reconciled with the idea that I no longer needed her to exist. And that is more than enough." What did you think of this story of revenge and justice? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments and tell me which moment was your favorite. Would you have done something differently? Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and don't miss any of our stories full of twists and impactful endings.